All right, hey, what's up, everyone? Today I'm going to be revisiting an old project that I've done a long time ago. It was a payload, just Next.js project. It's not anything super revolutionary, but what I wanted to do was make a rhyming dictionary, but not just like perfect rhymes. So I'm somewhat of a writer. I mean, I do this, I do some songwriting, things like that. But with writing, there are different ways to rhyme words. And I've always been interested in coming up with a programmatic way to handle those rhymes because not everything needs to be a perfect rhyme. And in fact, most perfect rhymes are pretty boring. A perfect rhyme would be like dog, log. Whereas something that would be a little bit more interesting would be just trying to think off the top of my head, which is very difficult to do, especially with a one syllable word. Dog. Regardless, there are more interesting ways to rhyme than just having that perfect rhyme. So I'm going to be building out a project. I'm going to use tanstack start and payload to manage the content, tanstack start for the front end, but I'm going to be using Claude to help me do it. So I'm going to plan everything out. I'm going to do this as if I was actually building a product. So that's going to include authentication, users. It's going to include making the architecture, which is what we're going to do right now. So I'm going to just start from very basic scratch. What is this project going to do? What is it modeled after? How does all of the different content entities interact with one another? So really getting down to the root of the architecture, because having that architecture is what makes coding with LLMs a lot easier. So let's go ahead and get started with that. I have this canvas here with Obsidian that I'm going to do. So this isn't a special tool or anything. Obsidian is just, it's a markdown editor, but this just gives me a way to graphically show things. So I can drop this here, and this is going to be rhyming dictionary. So that's just the base of the project rather. So the rhyming dictionary is going to be made up. First of all, we know we need words. So words make up any rhyming dictionary. And the way I want rhymes to be is multisyllabic. So I want multiple syllables to be able to match to one another, which means that our words then need to break down into syllables. So we'll have syllables, and then within those syllables, we need our, I guess the best way to put it would be like phonetic, I guess vowel sound. I don't know. So this is where I need to think through a little bit more. So our rhyming dictionary is going to have words, which is going to have its own ID. Then we'll have like a name, and then it'll be made up of syllables, but the syllables probably need to belong to the word. So we're not going to go out and just make a so the syllables is actually going to be a count of the words. So let's actually change this to be a syllables array, which I need to use Markdown for that to work. So we have syllables array, which then means we don't need this here, but then this connects here. So we have our words, which will have its ID, it'll have its name, and it'll have syllables. Then it needs something to match on, which would be the vowel sound. So this would be things like A, E, I, O, U. And then where it gets tricky is diphthongs and different, all the differing vowel sounds. So let's expand this. And then words themselves are going to have, I guess it's homophones, or maybe homonyms. Either way, this is when the two words, different spelling, same pronunciation. So we'll need to handle those cases as well. So we have our rhyming dictionary. So our rhyming dictionary is made up of words, which includes an ID, a name, and some syllables. We'll also want to include probably we would want to do synonyms to help us expand what's available to us. And then outside of synonyms, we also want to include definition, which should probably be an API call. And I'm sure I actually know that there's a free dictionary API, but I don't remember what it's called right now. So we have our words are going to break out into homophones, homonyms, whatever, our synonyms, and then a definition. And then our syllables, we'll have to come back to that in a second. So our words have an ID, a name, and a syllable. Our vowel sound should also have an ID and a name. And each syllable can have a vowel sound. And a vowel sound should probably be its own collection that is related to our words. And so I'm using the relation to. This is how Palo would write it. So we have a words collection, we have a vowel sounds collection, and while vowel sounds won't change or we won't add new vowel sounds often, if at all, we still want to be able to have that relationship differently so we're not typing in the same one a bunch of times. Also with our words, we're going to need to address different pronunciations. So that's going to be difficult as well. All right, so just trying to think through the primitives here. So the things that we absolutely need for our rhyming dictionary to work. So this doesn't even need to be connected to anything. Let me delete this arrow. Delete arrow. So this is just rhyming dictionary. We'll have words, which will be connected to a vowel sound. Outside of that, there's really not much to add to this project. So just trying to think through the words here. So each word is made up of one or more syllables, but the syllable is not its own collection type. So I'm going to write that as a note. Each word is a collection of one or more syllables. So that's just what makes up a word. A word needs to have at least one syllable, and so that's one assumption there. Each word is a collection of one or more syllables. Each word has a primary or most commonly accepted pronunciation. It's another assumption there because we can't cover every pronunciation ever. There are too many dialects in English. This is also, each word for now should only be an English word because localization at this scale would be ridiculous, but not unheard of. So I think we might be able to do that, but one phase at a time. We don't need to boil the ocean, as they say. So these are our assumptions. Each word is a collection of one or more syllables. Each word has a primary or most commonly accepted pronunciation. Each word for now should only be an English word. All right, so outside of our words, let's zoom out, we need to have our users collection. So user is going to have an ID, a name, and a role. And I'm going to make that an array of roles. So our roles that we need, I'm going to build out this way, is we're going to need a free user. Then we'll need something like a paid user. Then we'll need an admin user. So an admin user would have payload access. That's the CMS. A free user would have some certain access, and a paid user would have other access. What these features look like, not quite sure yet, so we can kind of just do free. But I don't think there should be multiple roles at that point then, unless we were to do like an enterprise version, which I don't really foresee that happening. So we can only have one role. There can be two roles if it's an admin user and a user of the platform. So let's make it just a single role, because an admin user would have the same as the paid user. So that's when we can do something like, can I add a note? That's just the type of arrow. That's a zoom. I need this to be like a mermaid chart. So if we do, can I connect to this? No, I can't. So paid user inherits free, admin inherits paid. And so that's kind of our role strategy there. So each user should also have favorites, so a way to log what their like words are, so a way for them to have their own dictionary. That way they don't have to keep searching, or if they search for the same word a lot, they can have favorites. And then maybe even include some notes. So our favorites, oops. Let's do favorites, which will take an ID and a name. Or actually, it doesn't take a name, it takes a word. So that's actually going to be this here. So our favorites need an ID and a word, and then this is each favorite. So it's not an array of words, they're favorites. So since this is an array, it's an array of ID and word. I'm just writing that for me at this point. And then our notes, so favorites go to user, word can go to favorite. All right, so that works fine. Then we need our notes, which again needs an ID, and then just the text, probably a title. And I think that's really all a note would need. So they could use this as like a way, and I'm gonna make this, can I make this rich text? Let's just make it, we'll work on that. So this is what we have so far. So we have a word. Each word has an ID, a name, and a set of syllables. Each word is a collection of one or more syllables. Each word has a primary or most commonly accepted pronunciation. Each word for now should only be an English word. Then we need to handle different pronunciations, homophones or homonyms, when two words with different spelling, same pronunciation. The same spelling would be handled in this definition API call that I want to do. And then synonyms, which probably also comes from an API. Yeah, it's going to need to. API call. All right, so we have two external pieces of information coming in. So we'll need to address that. Then we have our vowel sounds. So we'll have a collection of all the vowels in American English to start with. We should probably general dialect. So in US to start. So that's to label it for like future localization purposes. Each word can be in a favorites collection, which takes an ID or a word from that collection. All of these come with updated at and created at just as part of payload. Then each favorite can be included in a user, with the favorites being an array, so they can have one or many favorites. They can have one or many notes as well, and notes will be an ID text title for the note. Then we'll have our users, which will need an ID, a name, and a role. And the roles will be free, paid, or admin, which build on each other. So admin inherits paid, inherits free. All right, so this is looking pretty good for what this is. What else would a rhyming dictionary need? If I'm thinking about this on the front end, we need a way to account for all the different syllables in a word. And I think I need to leave that to planning how we're going to render that, or how we're going to store it, first of all, because we need to find a way to query from payload all the words for each syllable, each word that shares a same syllable, even if it's in a different syllable. So that's where multisyllabic gets a little weird, because if you have a rhyme in syllable 1 of a 3-syllable word, I want to be able to account for that, but also not say necessarily that this is a rhyming, like a direct rhyme or perfect rhyme. So let's write a note about that. So this is just overall project philosophy. So multi-syllabic rhyme, handle when rhyming vowel is in different syllable position. I also, there's a philosophy. It's a book called Writing Better Lyrics. That's kind of the philosophy that I'm going after. Philosophy on rhyming, and it's just a subsection of the book. I'm sure Claude knows it, but we'll find out. So what other assumptions are there? We need to handle pagination at the syllable level. However, this ends up getting rendered, so we'll have to come back to that and think that through. So we got pagination. Don't really need filtering a whole lot because you're searching for a word, and just a lot of words though. So we can come back to filtering. We'll do this as an aside here because I can ask, what would good filtering look like? So we have a pretty solid, I think, architecture here. So we already did all our collections here. I don't need to go through that again. And then we have some requirements, I think would be the best way to put that. So from end to end, we have a user, we have a free user. A free user needs to sign in to view we would want a public way to do this. So I don't even know what like paid features there could be. We'll get to that. It's all theoretical anyway. So we'll stub the paid user and then see if there's a way to monetize that. So this is just another open question. What's a gating feature? And that's something that we can come back to as well. So that's just a future question. But I think this is enough to get started, and I think I can just share this with, can I just copy the source? I don't know how that would work. Settings. So I don't want to just copy. Let's see if it can do this. 1 second. I don't think it's going to be able to do that. So what I'll do is I'm going to leave that here. Then that's not a big deal. All right. So let me zoom back in. Having a moment of crisis here. All right. So I could export as image. Let's go ahead and do that. Export as image, full canvas, whatever, zoom, I don't need that. Obscure any text on your canvas. I need it though. That's not what I wanted to do. Oh well. Let me move this here. Drop it in downloads, save. Oh, it's taking multiple photos. Oh, it stitches them together. All right. So I'm going to drop some context into Claude now. So over here, I want to build a rhyming dictionary based on writing better lyrics philosophy on rhyming. That means more than just perfect rhymes. I want to handle more interesting rhymes across multiple syllables. So I want to include multisyllabic rhyme, handling when a rhyming vowel is in a different syllable position. We'll need to handle pagination, as well as consider what good filtering can look like, and even what a gating feature is for paid users. I have a map of each collection and its potential relationships and some assumptions as well as questions for us to answer. Take a look at this screenshot and let me know what else you need. So I will drop this in and we'll let Claude take over from here. So I wonder if I can make things a little bit easier to see here. I haven't done this on the fly before, so I'm going to do screen capture. Did that do it? Ah, there we go. All right, so that's, it's at least more focused. All right, I've launched an exploration of your working directory to see what's already there. While that runs, let me know what the user is thinking so far. What is it doing the directory in? I don't know. All right, what happens if so I can adjust that screen size. Can I then do this? Just to make it maybe a little bit easier to see. There we go. All right, so now we wait for Claude to come back with some information. And hopefully just having, I'm only working out of a ghosty right now, so we don't need to see anything else quite yet. But I could also, what if I did, oh, that's way too small. What have I done? All right, so good enough. I forgot to tell it. I would like to use TanStack Start for the front end and Payload CMS for the back end. Spilling all the beans here. Dang it. Payload for the CMS, TanStack start for the front end, MongoDB for the database. Oh, good. So, sure, that has a lot of words in it. Group by syllable count, result groups into sections. Yes, that's actually what I mean. So this is why having Claude do some of this research is good. Tier by rhyme strength, then syllables. Yeah, I want to do by syllable count. If that doesn't work, I can try something else. Sure, that works. Full result depth. Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's all for funsies now anyway. What if all right, yeah, I'm just trying to make this take up a little bit more room here. There we go. So we have our stack, payload 3, or payload, TanStack start, Mongo, new mono repo, keeps talking about another project. All right, so it's designing stuff now. So we just have to wait for Claude to do its thing to figure out how to tie all this together. So it's going to type up a plan. It's going to read some files and such. And it came up with some pretty good suggestions. First of all, knowing like good paid features. So I didn't even think about gating the number of notes. I think that was a good idea, as well as favorites. I don't even know if those would be heavily used features, but it's always worth exploring those. And then I didn't realize that there were ways to import words. That was actually one of the concerns in the back of my head, was like, there's a lot of words in English. So having that database already there is, I think, important. So all of that I've now delegated over to Claude to figure out, and it'll come back with a plan. I'm going to need to figure out what the plan is going to be and then iterate off of it. So let's see what it says here. So it says I now have all concrete reusable patterns grounded, which would be our access, role, server jobs. I don't know what the jobs TypeScript file is going to do. And it looks like we're using payload SDK, which I think that makes sense. From what I understand from my light research, is there's an issue compiling payload's local API with TanStack start. I haven't done any actual testing with it, so I don't know how true that is. Let's see here. So payload should use the payload skill. So it needs to know about the payload skill, because if not, for some reason, mine keeps coming back to context 7. So I'm building, so front end is TanStack start, then back end is payload, which would be our CMS. The thing I'm building is a more advanced rhyming dictionary. So I explained at the beginning of this video, I'm somewhat of a writer. So I don't like perfect rhymes in my writing, because usually they're just not very interesting, and there's always a better rhyme. So this program that I'm trying to write is going to be a database of words ranked on a syllable, so I can use the syllables to match rhymes instead. So I'm building out the full backend in payload using collections and relationships and all of that. I just built a whole diagram, which I can actually show. The diagram is here. This is just showing the architecture of the project. It's a very simple project, so it's not anything that's going to be too complicated. But I wanted to take this from an architectural standpoint, not just throwing it into Claude to let it try and figure out what to do, but rather guide and work out all the kinks before sending it to planning. So yeah, it's going to be, I think, a good project. But right now, it is with Claude. So I did all the thinking beforehand, trying to figure some things out. And then Claude now is taking that and implementing a plan, or designing a plan rather, that we're going to talk about and figure out if it is the best path forward. And the reason I'm showing it like this is because I think this is how work is actually going to be. I still know this code. I could write this program, but there are just so many blind spots that I have that I know Claude doesn't have. So what I get to do is come up with the fun stuff. Like, this is how the project's going to be, and then I delegate the output to the machine, and I take care of the outcome. So that's the stuff that I actually really like. But when we get into it, I see Claude thinking, and it's going to use something like, well, first of all, everybody uses data muse in the rhyming dictionary world. So I might have to look at that to figure out what's going on. Regardless, me having my context, I see Claude going into context 7, and so I say there's a payload skill. Use the payload skill, because payload is going to know more about payload than context 7 is. So just knowing that kind of stuff, and then how all of it interacts and how all of it works is really important, especially in the architecting stage. The plan, agent return to thorough, docs verified design, 3 decisions remain. ID were as separate collections, but with MongoDB, they could also be embedded arrays on the user. Which do you want? So what should we do here? Favorites and notes are their own payload collections with a relationship to the user. Matches your diagram. So we wouldn't want, if we were to use a collection, that's to assume that these would be reusable documents. If we do it this way, it's another query on the API, which adds, it's not a huge amount of effort, but it is more effort than one would think. But if we were to embed it in on the user, then the user owns the notes and the favorites, and that lives in the user. The cap check there is one of the things that it's talking about, and then always loaded with the user. But if we could see notes, especially if we're going to have unlimited, we could see notes and we should plan to scale here, because if we're going to have a paid feature, like, we don't want to have to migrate a bunch of notes and favorites from a user to their own collections. That would just be terrible. Let's go with modest free tier. It always asks me to add plausible because of my old rules. I don't use plausible anymore. So we won't do any analytics for now. In fact, we probably wouldn't do plausible for this anyway, or even OpenPanel, which is what I'm using now. This is more of an application, so Datadog would probably be a better option here. But all of that can be delegated to the future. So plan is forthcoming. Do you prefer Claude in the CLI instead of Claude app? Or yes, I prefer the CLI. Can't tell you why. Well, I can tell you why compared to the Claude app, because I mostly use Claude Code, and Claude Code and the app is just a little unwieldy for me. And honestly, I started with the CLI for Claude Code anyway, so it's just easier for me to see this. And I don't use Visual Studio Code. I use WebStorm. Sometimes I will still use the terminal inside WebStorm for that, but I don't use like the actual native Claude integration, mostly because I resize my windows a lot, and that can mess with how Claude renders text, because for some reason it doesn't take the terminal styles. But yeah, so CLI for me. All right. while it writes the final plan. Sip of water. And we'll see what this project turns into. This is something that, first let's talk about this. So the ideation of this project is not necessarily like I haven't done market research. This is a tool that I want to use. So the plan for this project is I'm going to build something that I want to use, and then if somebody else wants to use it too, it's going to be available to them. So that's where I'm thinking through the tiers a little bit. I have no plans on actually selling anything, but if it happens, it happens. So I'm building this for me. It's a fun side project. It's something that I would personally use, but I want to be able to account for other users. Have you tested the Sakana Fugu? Heard it's better than Fable. I haven't tested it yet. I just heard about it today. I know it's Vercel has it on their AI SDK or AI gateway. So no, I haven't looked at it yet, but I have heard good things. All right, Claude came back with a plan. So let's take a look here. So it's a pretty big plan, and it's a pretty big plan because we made some pretty hefty decisions up front. So this is not like a weak or soft plan. This is a plan that had some thought going into it, some back and forth conversation about different aspects or ambiguities. I could have done a little bit more with creating a phased approach, but that seems a little overkill for such a simplistic application. Like architecturally, it's a couple of primitives. I'm not too worried about that. So we've got our context. It's Greenfield. It's going to use one of my course mono repos. This course is not out yet, but apparently I kind of have to do a soft launch right now because it's coming. So then we'll be using Mongo. So this is just context so far. We'll be using Payload, Tanstack, Mongo. Right now, Payload 3 is Next.js native, but I did a stream last week exploring Payload 4, which is even before alpha right now. But that with a Tanstack front end as well. So eventually this could become one application. Then we have Mongo, monorepo, all the same. All right, so we're going to seed our phonetics using the pronouncing dictionary from the alphabet phonemes. So this is going to build the rhyme engine. Oh, it's calling my model naive. I said A-E-I-O-U plus all the diphthongs and all of that. That's rude, Claude, rude. Pagination is going to group by syllable. Pagination within each group, which that is one thing I was never able to really figure out. So I'm really excited to get into that. It's going to take care of my gating, favorites, with relationship to the user, and no analytics for now. That's going to be easy to add later. Songwriter searches a word, sees rhymes grouped by syllable count and filterable by rhyme type, with advanced rhyme types and definitions or synonyms behind a Stripe subscription. So first of all, I want to change a few things. We'll need to be sure to stub a paid user so I can see everything behind the Stripe paywall. So that's the first thing. There was another thing that I wanted to add. Oh, I also want to make sure that we have this phased approach in a markdown file to refer to later beyond just the Claude memory. That's not the word I want to use. Claude plan artifact. That can be included with the scaffolding of the project before I clear context. So I'm going to do some context management here a little bit. I am using Opus 4.8 in this, which is going to have the 1 million token context window, but using all of that context window is going to be a mistake. It's going to get very expensive very quickly. So I want to make sure that I'm managing my context a little bit as well. So now let's look at its plan, and it's a big and it's a hefty plan. So we went through all the context. We're going to have monorepo layout, which I think is, yeah, phase 1. This is where I'm going to have it also create an artifact for me to refer back to, because we're not going to get through all of this in one session. Again, it's going to take from one of my course layouts, which coming soon, y'all. It'll be there in scripting right now. Then reused. So it's taking a bunch of functions that I've already used, or some reusable functions will be used. I never told it I would like to use shadcn and Tailwind for my design library. Guess my component library. Oh, I guess I should explain the title. I have one that I pay for, and then 4 others from other things that I'm involved with. So I'm losing my mind because Claude doesn't have an account switcher, so I have to have 5 different browser contexts for each Claude if I want to use them all. So that's fun. All right, so this first phase looks pretty good. Payload collections, we do have our vowel sounds. Phoneme. Oh, this is 4 vowel sounds, so the phoneme. Perfect, yep, has a friendly name. I don't know if I need this checkbox, but I'm going to leave it for now. Example words. Interesting, I like that. Read anyway, write is admin. So then it's going to import 134 words, 134,000 words. I don't know what that's going to look like yet, but database is going to love it. Word has 1 to 4 pronunciations, always read together. Embed pronunciations. Mongo multi-key indexes. Interesting. So I wouldn't even thought of doing that. So name normalized. Okay, so this is... we need to make sure... Ensure any searchable collection is indexed through payload. So back up to phase B. Word normalized is English frequency. Okay, that works. I'm okay with that. It's going to take in anyway, so we'll have to see what that looks like. Pronunciations, phoneme string. It's an array. Rain. Okay. Stress, syllable count, number index. Okay, syllables, array of phonemes per syllable, groups from syllabifier. So I wonder, select, nope, so that's fine. So one thing I ran into that I didn't realize was a bug the last time I tried to tackle this was the array field couldn't have the same value twice. So if a word had the same phoneme twice, I could only select it once. That has since been fixed, so we can do that here. So this app is somewhat that, yes. What I want to do is create an alternative rhyming dictionary. So instead of using only perfect rhymes, dog, log, I want to be able to have more interesting rhymes that are based more on the vowel sound rather than the last syllable of a word. Its primary pre-computed rhyme key is the heart of perfect key. So this is a pretty, I didn't even think of all of these for our word collection, so I'm glad Claude has done this. Coda consonants, I don't know what that is. Interesting. Okay, so all of this, I guess, is going to come back in. Never run the paid query for a freeze. All right, so gating at the server. 2 words, different normalized. Multiple pronunciations. This is exactly what I want. Our users are fine. I already know that that's going, we talked that through. Our favorites. Yep, separate collection. That'll come in. Great. Perfect. Notes. for user with count greater than or equal to 5. All right, so then lookups right through cache for external word text kind. Okay. Server side via all local API calls, thread rec. So I guess we are using. So I think we're using the payload API, local API. So that'll be interesting to see how that compiles in the future. So the rhyme engine is the vowel set, okay? Syllabify, so turning words into syllables, rhyme keys, all of this makes sense. I mean, that could happen. So to answer the question, if I do actually make this app and see it all the way through, and everything works fine, can you sell that and earn real money, or is that another story? I think so, yes. I do think other people would want this, but I've mentioned earlier, I'm building this for me. I want to use this product. And so that's the main driver of me creating this, is because I want to be able to use it. So if others use it, great. If not, I have a cool project that I'm going to host. All right, rhyme keys, match time script. Perfect. Okay, multisyllabic. Assonants, consonants, and you're saying. All right. Really interested to see how all this comes together. All right, so scripts, parse, seed, vowel sounds, syllabify. So all this looks good. Bulk insert words, insert many batches of 5K. That's going to take a long time. How long is that going to take? 134,000 divided by 5,000. 27 trips to the database. Shouldn't take too long. Comment, golden query. Yeah, so here, this is all perfect rhymes here, and that's supposed to be time. So time rhymes perfectly with rhyme, climb, sublime, prime, etc. So we'll get into more interesting rhymes later. Now the actual app itself, landing with a search box. Okay. Results, syllables expanded group later. All right. Engine computes. End-to-end verification. All right, so I think I like this project. I'm going to tell Claude to make these changes, and then we're going to get started. I need to adjust my little standing situation here. There we go. All right, so Claude's gonna hype me up for a second, bake in some things. Oh, I didn't have to say that. I need to tell it to stop calling out my course. Either way, plan's getting updated. And then once that starts, I'm gonna send this off into auto mode. So he, or Claude, not a he, is doing some planning now. And once that part's done, I feel good about the structure and the architecture, and theoretically, it should work. But as we all know, theory kind of breaks apart sometimes in practice. So we'll see if how we have this planned goes to plan. Otherwise, we'll start making pivots as we go. But the plan should be just about done here. And then we can start on the next thing. So dev paywall stub, seed and admin, rhyme test. That was new, so I want to see that. Oh, here we go. Because since it's going to be in 6 phases, after I get the scaffold done, I might be able to run everything else in parallel. So let's get started. We're going to use auto mode. So I'm going to set it off to do its own thing and watch it as it works. And after it gets it scaffolded, I'm going to pull up the code and we're going to start looking at the code as well, because I want to be able to be sure that what it's building makes sense. And hopefully I don't need to watch my token usage a whole lot, but I guess we'll see. You never really know with this stuff. All right. Making up names now. Sure, that sucks, but I'm gonna run with it. I wouldn't use a product called Versecraft, but it's like having code names for any product that you're working on. You just need to get some kind of name out there so you can think through other things that are more important, like building the actual product. This honestly could have been like Project Alpha or something like that. That's just like something to indicate my first like actual project into this. Yeah, this shows me I need to clean up my node modules on my computer. They really add up with all these different projects I've got going on. And copying the source config. All right, so we're scaffolding. I'm gonna pull up my Finder on a different screen. Because I'm gonna go as soon as this is available in WebStorm, I'm gonna open it. So open. Versecraft. All right. There is that. Oh. I should probably put it back on the screen here. So I will put this on the left so my face doesn't block it. And then I can bring this over to the right. And we can see that I've already used 14% of my context, so that's actually not terrible for, you know, planning and getting some scaffolding going, but I don't want to have it go beyond. Really 25 to 30% is where I try to at least start considering clearing my context or compacting it so that I can have the smarter zone of Claude working on my project and not the dumb zone of Claude. So letting it scaffold, the project is already created, so that's why this is up in WebStorm now, but it's still working on the monorepo, and it's using high effort. It's thinking really hard about this. It's sure taking its time, though. All right, so we have... Oh, everything is pruned. That makes me nervous. Hold on. Oh, I think it just pruned it out of this project, not what I've been working on. That would appear to be correct. Cool, yep. Way to make me nervous there, Claude. And so the way this project's going to work is we have our CMS and our web. So it's a monorepo. It's a PNPM workspace. So we have our front end, and then we have our payload instance here. So this is only going to have payload. It's not going to have the normal like front end folder, just as an example, but will still be accessible through my local host /admin. We've got our collections here, which is just going to be users for now because it needs to be added, or the collections will need to be added in, I believe that's phase 3 or phase 1. I don't know what it's going to do. But this is showing way too much. Please hold. I'm going to switch back to my face. I just have a project that I'm working on that will be available, but right now it is not. So I don't want to show off too much of that because there should be some mystique, some surprise in what's to come. So let's see. What if I go... This is fine. Yeah, all right. So let me actually do this here. So I'm going to set this to be WebStorm instead. Okay. There we go. So if I come over here, and do a little bit while I wait for it to finish scaffolding. So yes, we have our collection users. The payload config is being built right now, and we'll need that hook in a little bit. Then there are some access controls, which is really where we delineate between the different roles, free and paid. And then, yep, we have our front end here. So I'm going to go back here. So the reason why not only one Claude account is I have the one that I pay for, but then I am involved in a bunch of different other projects which all have their own Claude accounts for whatever reason. And Claude doesn't allow me to switch between accounts, so I have to have 5 different browser contexts in order to use all of these different Claude accounts if I want to use them or work on them around the same time. So it makes life difficult, but it is what it is. All right, where are we at? So scaffolding is still happening, but we can see we have our components with pagination component integrations. This comes from actually scaffolding your own TanStack front end using their CLI tools. They come with their own dev tools with a root provider. Then we have our routes, which looks like it's getting some of this stuff already in place. Knowing that we need our words, we need an index, of course we need our root. Then anything on the server, etc., etc. Okay, so dependencies are being installed right now, which means I should be able to share my whole screen again. There we go. Did this add collections already? It did not, but I see users here with some notes, which is very nice. And then it looks like it's going to use the Stripe plugin in Payload. I wonder if that's already been installed. Doesn't look like it. So we'll see how it comes around to that. If it doesn't use the Stripe plugin, I'm probably going to have it do that anyway. It's creating an environment variable file for me now. And so normally how I might have done this would be to use Payload's create payload app, which would then set the MongoDB for me. But since Claude is doing it for me, it doesn't have access to those CLI tools like I do. Did clients provide you accounts? Yes. I'm not paying for 5 Claude accounts. I've got the one that I pay for. And then if anybody else wants me to do work for them and use their enterprise Claude, I am more than willing to. It's just, it's a headache though. It's fine. It's fine. All right, so servers are up, things are responding. It's verifying this is working, but you can see even now just this first phase, this first phase has already taken up 20% of my context. So I would not want to do another phase or two of this without clearing context. Did you pay to work for them? Nice Hound, where did you find those clients? Honestly, through connections. I've been doing freelancing for a very long time, so probably 15 or 16 years. And so throughout those years, I started back on Upwork. So that's where I found a couple of good clients, and then I was able to start making connections from those clients to more clients. And I've kept those clients for a long time. Anytime that they want more work, they remember me, they know I do good work, and they ask me for it. That's mostly digital marketing that I did that. But then that has turned into more development work. So just having friends that are designers, they can recommend work. Having friends that, having friends is good. Making connections is good. And I don't mean like going to cocktail parties and networking that way, but just always remembering that having good relationships with people is good all around. Why are you using 5 accounts? This is what I'm explaining now. I do some client work. Clients want me to use their Claude. I use their Claude. So I've got the one I pay for, and then there's more outside of that. So maybe I should have pinned that comment. Either way, let's get back to this. This is the fun stuff. Who cares about what I'm doing? All right, what's in place? So phase 0 complete. We have a monorepo, talking about my course again. Users, rebranded shell. That's all good. Verified booting. All right, perfect. So everything looks good here. Let's just do local git for now. I don't need to do anything else with this. So did you make the document I need? Yes, you did. No, I need to clear or compact. What should I do? And do you have what you need for a handoff? Then you can give some away. I'm afraid that's not how this works. They're all tied to my accounts, so I cannot give any away. I apologize. So what this is doing now, we've used up about 21% of my context window here. It's telling me that phase 1 is the biggest of all of the different phases. That means that I cannot go in with only 80% context, because if we're honest, between like 40 and 60% is not the smartest Claude that we can get. So I want to make sure that I have plenty of headroom to work with Claude to do this next phase in order for it to work. So let me set you up for a clean, compact, and clear. I'll write a self-contained handoff. So we're going to get a handoff there. I could make this into a skill. I do this all the time. I just didn't make it a skill yet. But we can have this handoff, and the handoff will tell me, or tell Claude what it needs to know to move forward. All right, what I'm building. So I'm going to have like this pitch down by the time that I'm off this stream. So I'm tired of rhyming dictionaries that only give you perfect rhymes. I'm a writer, so I want to be able to have more interesting rhymes than just perfect rhyme, like dog, log. I want to be able to do more than that, but in a programmatic way. So I'm building a tool that I would use in my own writing that allows me to look up a word and see multisyllabic rhymes, so rhymes for each syllable of a word, in a way that I can then either favorite, write a note about, or whatever, and see how each of those rhymes works together for more interesting writing. So I'm going to productize it, assuming that maybe other people will use it, but for me, this is my own personal project that I am excited to do. So I don't know if there's a market out there for it, but I hope there is. It should help with wrappers, yeah. I actually brought this idea to the songwriting subreddit years ago. It must have been like a year and a half, maybe 2 years at this point. People seem interested in it, but we'll see if anything actually comes from it. Keep things a little more focused here. There we go. All right, where are we? All right, handoff is in place. I see it there. Committed locally, branch. Run clear. All right, so I'm going to take its exact note here. The new session will pick up the memory pointer, read a handoff, and oh, okay, yeah. Would any sessions be good to run in parallel? So I want to speed this up a little bit. So I'm going to see if we can run anything in parallel. Interesting idea. What more ideas or different ideas will you be working? So as another aside, I've been learning more about TanStack Start. So I was building a weather app using the OpenMedio API, which is free. So that was one thing I was working on. And then turning Payload CMS, which is, it's a CMS, into a CRM, because it's more or less an application framework. So I was working on that as well. So got a couple things in the pipe, working on a couple more courses as well. I have Payload Essentials on my website, nlvcodes.com, link in the description, that I've already got out, but now I'm working on more as well. All right, some phases parallelize, that's a good word, cleanly, others don't. It keeps calling me naive. Thanks, Claude. 1, 3, and 4. All right. I don't really want to do spree. Never mind. Let's just do clear. All right, so I'm going to have it read the handoff doc, and then it's going to go and set up the largest phase here. So why did I get my hair cut? My hair just kept getting in the way of everything. My hair was normally never that long. If you look at older videos of me, my hair is a little bit longer than this. But regardless, like, this is the normal haircut that I have usually had. But if you clear the context, would not the result be bad because of no context? That is why I made a handoff document. So I've got a handoff and a roadmap markdown file. So, and beyond that, Claude has the plan artifact in its memory. So I was able to get the phase that I wanted done, clear the context, reinsert just what it needs to know for the next phase, and then kick off. It already has the context it needs for the project. It's not going to go too far off the rails. But that's where each phase is going to have its own review process. So after this gets done, I should have a front end to start looking at. But it's going to pull in a big list as well. So I'm really interested to see how this goes. The frequency sort drive, okay. I'm planning to filter frequency to 0, but leaves the data source open. Seed all words with frequency 0. Now sort falls back to alphabetical wire. All right. It says to defer. Seed all words with frequency 0 now. We should just wire the real list now. All right, milestones, golden query on real CMU dictionary. All right, yep, do the seed. All right, this plan specifier hand-rolled solidifier. Yep, confirmed, and it's gonna go. All right, so the question, I have experience with Fiverr or Upwork. Tips. So Upwork has changed a lot over the past couple of years, so keep that in mind. When I started doing like some digital marketing work, I just found whatever job I could get. The problem that this is so hard to say, but the problem with Upwork right now, and kind of towards the end of me being there or like on the platform, is every job was a bid to the bottom. So you would always, like, in most cases, the labor that you provide is always going to be worth more than what the client is going to pay, because someone will always come in and undercut you. So it's really hard to sell value. But if you start building up your Upwork portfolio, so being able to, it gets way easier after you get one job. So I did have to take maybe 1 or 2 Upwork jobs that paid way less than they should have. But I was able to log hours and get reviews from those projects. And then those projects led to higher paying jobs. The hard part is knowing when to switch from your low paying, like, the acceptable hourly rate and start raising it. So the best way to do that is after your first client or 2, start raising your rate from there. All right. Yeah, that's the hard part, is how to compete in Upwork nowadays. That's the part that I'm trying. Like, I have not gone back to Upwork in like 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years at this point. So it's really hard for me to say in the new world of Upwork how to get in on the competition, because it's been really hard to find new freelance work on like websites like Upwork. All right, Claude's talking to me. Hold on. All right. Context 7, anonymously. Except it'll log me in. All right, that's about it. Yes, so freelance work it's really hard to get into, but once you do, it gets easier. That's really the best way that I can say that. I will also say, as much as you can, do not work for free. Always find someone who is willing to at least pay you for your time, and then start building up a repertoire that way. But it is going to take time and it's going to be difficult. So freelancing, unless you already have a network of people, is very difficult to do, especially on Upwork. Is it real from community? Also, we can find the work. I have found one client on Reddit. If I did more on Reddit, I probably could find more. What is better, Fiverr or Upwork? See on Upwork tokens. Yeah, I also don't like that about Upwork. That's kind of when I stopped participating on Upwork, but I still found a couple of jobs by people like looking for me. They changed their connection or tokens or whatever. That was the part that got me. So then I just stopped. I have not worked on Fiverr though, so I don't know about that. But yeah, no, I have found clients on Reddit that I can recommend that. I just commented on posts. That was really it. So I think I was talking about, so specifically for web design, I just mentioned that I could do a better website than, so a lot of like lawn care people in the United States have a Facebook page for their website. I was like, man, I wish these people just had actual websites. I would do it for cheap. And somebody DM'd me afterward and said, how cheap? So then I made them a website. So again, just creative ways to find work that way. But the point there is that I wasn't like going out to seek the work, and I wasn't just DMing random people trying to cold call them. No, it popped up and became kind of an organic thing. I have not found work on LinkedIn, but I have had connections reach out to me on LinkedIn after I had worked with them in the past. I do not want to talk about how much I was charging back then. First of all, it's not even worth it. I was not charging enough. But regardless, it was a side project for me. So I was not trying to make a living from it. All right, let's take a look at where Claude is. All right, so it's getting V-test. Engine is built. I'll answer your question in just a second. Everything in combat indexes. Key Mongo. Rhyme engine. All right, I'm really interested to see what this comes out to. All right, so we're subreddits in mind for new clients. No, so I don't even know where I found that client from the subreddit. It was not like a web dev or looking to hire or anything like that kind of subreddit. It was just a random subreddit. I had a conversation with a person and we agreed. So in general, main problem is to find the right client who pays. Yes, so negotiation is hard. That's the truth. Yeah, I will. So I can't think of anything else that I would say to that. But yes, the main problem is to find a client who pays. Can give approximate. So the price back then, this was a few years ago. What did he pay? It was probably like $150 US. So I would never do that work again for that amount of money, and I have not. So I wouldn't say that that's a good price or a perfect price, but I was trying to break into a new industry at that time, and that was how I was able to do it. So I do not charge that anymore. I charge much more. All right, so it's building stuff. Actually, perfect rhyme, both wrong, non-perfect case. All right, so it's testing some stuff. I wonder if I can get in here. So we have our local host, 3000. It may not be running yet. Local host 3001. Okay, so servers aren't running yet. So it's doing some testing here. All 17 tests pass. Oh, I didn't even tell it to make tests. That's really good. I'm really glad it did that. All right, does payload to Mongoose adapter? Let me confirm. Man, use the payload skill for payload. Can you please commit that to memory? Yeah, this is what I was saying earlier. It's just, this happened because I cleared context. So whoever said that earlier, yes, kudos. But it wanted to know if payload had a way to do this. It does, and it found it in context 7, but payload is what I need. Like, we have the payload skill, use that. So I just needed it to commit it to memory. I want to see what this looks like. I'm a little antsy. But I don't think anything is running yet. So now we're at 11% context. So this is doing pretty good. But if we had started this from before, we'd be getting closer to like 35% context, which is outside of my comfort zone for what I want Claude to be doing. And remember, like, what, 8 months ago, max context before compaction was 200,000 or something like that. For Opus, it was 200,000 at least. I know Sonnet has had the million token context for a while, but then Opus got it. So 200,000 I think is roughly enough. But there are going to be some bigger projects that take up more than that, which this first phase may actually do more. All right, so now we have new collections being added. We see vtest config, sorry, has been added. We have so many node modules. But right now, no servers running, so I can't really see what's going on. And we just have to wait and see. Types generated. All right, so we have our words here. Oh, geez. So this came with some JS docs, so that's cool. Always read together. All right, so this is just the note. Oh, deviation from the plan. Interesting. The redundant per phoneme array is omitted. Phoneme string is canonical, and the UI splits it on space. Okay, that makes sense. This avoids a million needless embedded subdocs. Okay, so sometimes Claude makes good decisions. So anybody can read. Interesting. So curious how this is going to work. And like, if I can add words, I didn't even consider that. But I mean, so words are creatable. We are able to create them, so that's good. Users, all right. So from words, we then have vowel sounds. This is a collection. Yep. Phoneme. Example words. Okay, so I don't know why I didn't use the word collection here, but we'll see. And now it's probably about to seed, which is going to be a hefty thing. That looks very easy to hack. Tell me more. Why does it look easy to hack? All right. Let's see. If there is a problem for the starter to find their first client, then why no one is noticing the market gap and become the middle there? I have to think about this a little bit, because the entry level of working is becoming a little bit more difficult. Because it is overrated for the start. Because, so, one thing that's happening is more experienced agencies, freelancers, consultants are more efficient with Claude. So unless they, or sorry, with AI in general. So unless they're hiring entry-level positions to start learning under them, like, you have to think through it from the perspective of a company. Why would they hire someone with no or little experience? The primary reason would be to get cheap labor. So they want to find someone to do some work that they think they can do, but they don't want to spend a lot of money. They may, actually, I think that may be the only reason, because I don't think a company is going to take a bet on a person unless they have like reviews or some kind of experience beforehand. So in that case, I don't think freelance has to be the only experience, but working at a job in general is going to be important. So the only reason would be to get cheap labor, which then exploits the laborer and benefits the employer. So it gets difficult there. I don't know who would want to like go out to a starter only networking freelance website. But that's not to say, like, I could be wrong here. I don't think I would hire anybody who doesn't have some amount of experience in the field that I am trying to utilize, unless it's like somebody fresh out of college with no experience. So there's some give on that, but it gets a little complicated with, like, you have to think through from the company's perspective, is what I'm really trying to say here. All right, so we have our first phase appears to be done. Our first real phase appears to be done. It already seeded a bunch of words, so that's cool. Okay, perfect. I should be able to just run from the terminal here, npm dev. Okay, then Safari. The access is the only thing checking the role. I don't think it will be hard to manipulate. Ooh, what is happening there? Let's do npm dev, then localhost 3000. All right, so I need to take a look at that in a second. Two things need to happen. So first of all, so this is where testing comes in handy, and I'll come back to these comments in just a second. I'm sorry, but I don't want to forget. When I try to load up the admin panel, I get an infinite loop. This is what a few of those errors look like. And I would like dark mode to be on the front end. I don't even know if it's an infinite loop, but I'll let Claude figure that out. All right, the access is the thing, only checking the role. It won't be the only thing checking the role. It is on payload, but payload's also the server side. So the server is going to prevent any kind of malformed API calls for people trying to actually manipulate anything there. As for the front end, haven't gotten to it yet. So there are going to be checks on the front end as well to prevent people from actually getting into the platform. But we'll test all of that stuff as soon as we have more. All right, I work with computers for 30 years. I don't know. Okay. All right, so back to our screen. All right, so let's see here. Two separate things. Panel loop. So we're getting some issues with payload CMS UI, I guess. Oh, I can see why now. Well, I don't know why, but I can see why it got that. It's definitely some kind of file system issue. You know how I can tell? It's the file system. FS. All right. Let Claude do some more thinking. That's a whole lot of thinking. But yeah, so this is what's like, it's important to do individual like user testing while when you're like actually developing, because I could have gone this entire project and not realized that I can't even access my admin panel. All right. So the version pairing is fine. Config. All right, so now we're getting some troubleshooting here from Claude to figure out why I'm getting this loop. At least I assume it's a loop, but regardless, if I open this up, do I get my dark mode yet? Nope, because it exited for me. Okay, I guess I have to wait. It took over my my admin route here for a second, so I guess it's better that Claude has it than me, because I don't need to be troubleshooting this. It does. Oops. Hitting a bunch of wrong buttons over here. All right, will it let me do this, or is it still? It's still in there. Ugh. Oh yeah, why is it getting it from payload packages? Interesting, yeah, so I didn't even recognize that. So it's getting it from a different directory, but it's not a directory that I'm using. The directory exists on disk. Very weird. But this is why we have AI chatbots to root out these errors for me. Not something I need to worry about or waste precious brain power for. Wait. This is the one thing that I don't like about AI development, is just waiting for the response. Because I have stuff that I want to do. I have progress I want to make. And yet, we have to wait for Claude to finish thinking with high effort. Selfie, no read and install Symlink, points to normal PMD for source files from somewhere else. Source maps resolved there. Let me confirm exactly how with one targeted check. Okay. Really, there are two things I want to check before wrapping this up. So I probably have another 10 minutes or so. But I want to make sure that the project is rendering. We will pick this back up later this week. I will be streaming most likely again on Wednesday around the same time. But I want to make sure that our phase 1 is done and that I can see words and I can use the search bar. Actually, I don't even know if I want to be able to use the search bar. That's secondary, honestly. Like, do I even have components to render that? I don't have like a table or anything, so maybe not. So we'll see if the search bar is actually usable, but I want to make sure that words got put in and that we're able to have a little bit more. I just want to be able to see that it's working is all I want. All right, is the payload monitor a different major version? So let's clean from the registry. All right. I mean, I ran p npm dev. Now, like, I feel accused by Claude now. of Versecraft in WebStorm. Follow system preference for now. We'll add a toggle later for dark mode, but I just want to be able to not blind you guys with a white and black screen. I wonder then... Oh, that's that one package. So yeah, that's right. And then it's in an apps directory, so CMS and web should run parallel. Oh, okay. Okay, so it was just a caching issue. It's always a caching issue, especially with Next.js, always a caching issue. All right, still cache, fresh admin. And it's going to do dark mode, but let me see if I can spin this up. It appears so. Should be able to refresh. That's not dark mode yet. Okay, so I'm still getting this. Very strange that all that happened. Okay. So I can create a test user, which I'll just do example.com. Oof. My very secure password. My name, auto-generated. I will be an admin. Has email in there twice. Okay, so we have words and we have a bunch of words. So many words. All right, so frequency, there we go. All right, so we see words. We've got my admin logged in, so that's great. This is now dark mode. That's the word I'm trying to use. You can tell my brain is starting to fry. But I'm probably going to test results arrive in phase 2. It handles everything. All right, so what's this issue? It's probably, yep, it's my ad blocker, which I'm not going to turn off. But I should actually be able to fix that. Suppress. Oh. I know where it is. I don't have to do all that, so I can go to my payload layout.tsx. Is it not here? I thought I was. So if I do email props, there we go. All right, there we go. So I wanted to suppress that error because I'm not getting rid of my ad blocker. All right, so this is still doing stuff. All right, so what did you do here? stale cache was it. I am in on my CMS, so I'm good there. We added our dark mode, so that's okay. It just had to do a few things to get there, I guess. Oh. Confirmed. All right. Let's actually make sure that that is fixed. So if I refresh this, we should not get a bunch. We did not. All right. Perfect. All right, so we have our front end working here. We have our back end with some seeded words, which is great to see. We don't have notes or favorites or anything like that. We will have more users added soon. We do have our vowel sounds. And all of that looks good so far. So what else have we got here? Already did that. Hard to refresh the browser. That's good. Dark mode, done. All right. It can stay on this branch. All right. Need to clear context before moving forward. What do I need to do before I clear? So I'm going to do this real quick to make sure that I have everything I need before I clear my context. And then we're going to pick this up again on Wednesday because it's time for me to stop. I'm almost out of water. And I've been talking nonstop for almost 2 hours. So yeah, that just means it's time to call it quits. So it's going to check for uncommitted work. I have closed my servers, so that shouldn't be there anymore. I'm picking my next title for my live stream next week, or whenever I do next. Writing dictionary. Because none of my live stream titles now are going to make sense. And that's okay. I don't want them to. Two real uncommitted change. Why are they real though? All right, so it's going to commit these changes. It's going to record some follow-ups in the handoff doc, and then I will be able to clear context, move on with my life. And maybe we all can move on with our lives. If you want. All right. Good to clear context. Everything that needed doing. Here's the state. Handoff is current. Already did that. 2 steps. It's actually just 1 step. When you resume, point at the new handoff doc. Start phase 2. All right, perfect. So this is a great place to stop. I want to thank you all for engaging in the chat, first of all, and then watching. So I am really excited to get back into this project and be able to really architect something that I find interesting. So it's going to be a cool project. Hopefully more people find it interesting, more than me at least. And then we'll see what happens. So thanks everyone for watching. You can check out my course on Payload, which is the CMS I'm using here, at nlvcodes.com courses. So you can find the course there in my courses section of my website. You can also subscribe to my newsletter called Next in Dev, where I cover all the dev news from across the industry in a weekly newsletter. And you can also follow me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, NL Vogel. So all of that is linked in the description, and I look forward to the next stream. But for now, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.